not going to complicate it today. I'm just going to play some pretty standard poker and hopefully we can get some good spots and some interesting pots. So let's go.
I'm waiting for 1-3 and lose $100 at PLO. Not a good start. I get to 1-3 and in typical Chasers fashion, it's playing way higher than that. The double straddle's on. I'm barely rolled for 1-3, and this game's basically 4 times that. Now, I'm all about good bankroll management, but I also know a good game when I see one, and sometimes you just gotta take a shot. I'm under the gun, which means it's my option to straddle next. And look, when I'm at a Sox game and the wave comes my way, you better believe I'm getting out of my seat and throwing my hands in the air. Same idea here. Next hand, I post my double straddle. Mid position raises to 30, 2 people call, and the big blind and straddle fold. I've got 10-9 off and make the call for 18 more. The flop comes queen 8-6. I've got 8 outs to the nuts, and this pot's already pretty big. The small blind checks, I check, and the rest check around. Turn is the deuce of spades. The small blind checks again. With everyone showing weakness, I try to take it down now and bet 75. We get 1 call and the other 2 fold. I'm probably going to shove if I miss because he only has about 100 left, and it only needs to work about a quarter of the time to be profitable. But the problem is, he's only got about 100 left, so he might feel pot committed. We can throw all that math and worry right out the window because we drill the nuts when a jack hits the river. If we're shoving when we miss, we're shoving when we hit. He gives the old pot committed shrug and calls. I show my straight, he mucks, and the dealer sends the pot our way. We're back into Profitville in one hand, and I really hope this is a sign of things to come. Seat 2 is the only person at the table not straddling. I've played with him before. He plays tight solid, a real action killer. His position's really unfortunate, because his straddle is my button, so all the pots we play on my button will be smaller. Early position raises to 15, and the cutoff calls. I'm on the button with ace-10 off. It's not a spot I need to force, so I take the patient route and fold. A full orbit later, I've got a good sense of how everyone's playing. 90% of the table is straddling, and over half are double straddling. Let's get to work. I'm on the button again, seat 2 doesn't straddle, and a guy who's got close to 80 VPIP raises to 12. The next 3 players call, and I look down at Jack 8 suited. I feel like this is a good time to get frisky, so I 3-bet to 75. The big blind goes all in for 95. Oops. The original raiser folds, and the first caller goes all in for about the same. I didn't notice he was so short. If I did, I definitely wouldn't have done this. Sometimes in live poker, it can be tough to see people's stacks with how they position their hands, and sometimes they even get offended when you ask to see their stack. Either way, my fault for not noticing. It folds to me, and for 20 bucks more, I make the call. I want to get whatever value I still can from this hand, so I turn it face up for everyone to see. It's kind of like I already spent the advertising budget this hand, so might as well use it. The board runs out and we miss. But the big blind mucks. And then, so does the other guy. The dealer shifts me the pot, and I can't even believe it, but I'm not going to question it. Turns out, I was just playing jack high for value. If I told you this wasn't even the craziest hand this session, would you believe me? Just to prove to you guys that I'm not playing totally insane, the double straddle's on, under the gun limps, and I'm next to act with 6-7 suited. There. The $6 straddle's on, there's 2 limps, and I've got a suited jack in the hijack. I raise to 30. The button 3-bets to 75. The big blind cold calls 75, and the straddle goes all in for less. Yep, this is going to be the norm tonight. Both limpers fold, and the dealer's questioning his life's existence.
What is this life? What is this life?
It's 45 more to call, and I'm closing the action, so what else can I do? I call. The dealer makes the pot right.
32, 1, 2, 3, 96. 96 going in a side pot because arithmetic.
And the flop comes king 5 deuce. The big blind checks, I check 2, and the button shoves his last 125 in the middle. The big blind folds, and with less than a shred of hope, so do I. Straddle ends up winning this one with king 10 off. 10 minutes later, 2 players get to the river in a $400 pot.
I got a queen high. Queen cap high. God the heck, man.
Again, not the craziest hand tonight. There's a bomb pot a short while later. I fold on the flop, and there's some betting on the turn. The river comes and it goes check, check. Seat 3 turns over his 9 high and says, I missed. Seat 1 says, I missed 2, and tables 4-5. 9 high scoops a $250 bomb pot at Showdown. Now that's probably the craziest hand tonight. It's 8:30, and that means it's time to say goodnight to the kids. As much as I hate to walk away from this game, I want my kids to know that they're more important. Poker allowed me to do a lot of soul searching in my 20s, and I spent a lot of time focusing on improving my mental health. There are many things you can do to work on that, but the key is you gotta put in the effort. Sometimes it's as simple as being honest with yourself, building better habits, or admitting when you need help. Sometimes you need help from a professional, and when I consider accepting sponsors for my videos, it has to align with my values. So when BetterHelp asked to sponsor this video, I said yes. Most people don't even start therapy because they don't know where to begin, or they get discouraged when the first match isn't a fit. With BetterHelp, once you fill out a questionnaire, they'll connect you with a therapist, but you can easily switch anytime at no extra cost. And to be completely transparent, I've never used BetterHelp, but I have personally benefited from therapy and am happy to support their mission of making it easier to start. If you've been thinking about it or just need someone to talk to, click the link in the description or head to betterhelp.com/KevinIring to get 10% off your first month and get started today. Let's get back to the action. I come back to the table and buy the button. Under the gun raises to 10 and the entire table calls except 1. I've got 5-6 suited in the big blind and make the call. The flop comes 8-6-5. I've got bottom 2 pair, and although this is a decent spot to lead, I kind of just autopilot check. With the amount of aggression at this table, someone will probably bet and I can raise. The whole table checks around. Turn is the jack of clubs. I've now got a flush draw to go with my 2 pair. I decide to check again. I think it's highly unlikely it checks through twice on this table. Sure enough, seat 2 bets 30 and seat 3 and the button call. I likely have the best hand, and honestly, I don't even know if this is technically a good candidate for a check raise, but I'm doing it. Seat 2, who I'm most worried about, goes into the tank. He's a tight player, and if he raises, I'm for certain behind. Even if he calls, he's likely got decent equity. After a lot of thought, he folds, and so do the other 2. Even though our big raise didn't get called, this ended up being a pretty good pot. The straddle's on, the 2 loosest players limp, an action player limps behind, and I've got jacks in the small blind. Definitely in line for a raise, so I bump it up to 40. I think this size is fine, although I could have gone a tad bit larger, being out of position and being at a splashy table. Big blind and straddle fold, but the first limper calls, which sets off the domino effect, and both other limpers call too. The flop comes 9-5-4 with 2 hearts. RIP Lil Hold'em. Seems pretty good for us, so I lead out for 75. The first 2 players fold pretty quickly. I'd rather not face much resistance, and taking it down here would be just fine. Playing jacks this deep is rarely comfortable. There's not that many better hands he could have other than a set, but he can still put me in tough spots. He thinks about it for 30 seconds and eventually makes the fold. I'm actually surprised how many folds I've gotten, because I've only shown 2 hands down. The first where I semi-bluffed into a rivered straight, and my jack high that somehow scooped. Most of our hands tonight are going to start like this. I'm in the straddle, and this guy makes it 16 from the cutoff. The button and small blind call, and I look down at pocket 8s. I could raise or call, but rather than bloat the pot out of position, I decide to just call. The flop comes 10-7 deuce with 2 clubs. The small blind checks. This flop is likely to miss everyone, and if I check, it may check through. Half the time it'll be an overcard on the turn, and I'll be left wondering if I'm still good. I can get called by a lot of worse hands if I bet. Leading out also gives me more information. Both the original raiser and the button call. Turn is a jack. Another overcard isn't great, but it also gives me a gut shot. I think betting again is a little too ambitious, so I check. The original raiser bets 55 and the button calls. There is a chance I could still be good here, and getting 5-1, it seems like a pretty easy call. River is the 3 of clubs completing the flush draw. Not a card I wanted to see, but it may get them to slow down too. I check, and the original raiser bets 65. The other guy calls. Now, with the action, this seems like a pretty clear fold. But with the way these guys play, I'm not so sure. My pot odds are just crazy. It cost me 65 to win 460. I only have to be right about 12% of the time. But can 8s really be good? I've only got third pair, 2 draws came in, and this was bet for 3 streets. Probably not. I do have another option though. With his bet sizing, it doesn't seem like either of them have a flush. I could put in a big raise. It's very high risk, and even though I don't think they have a flush, I still might get called. Maybe if my bankroll was bigger, I'd be willing to take this spot, but for better or worse, I just fold. The original raiser shows 10-7 for 2 pair, and the other player mucks. I honestly don't know if the guy would fold to a raise. Here's an unconventional way to play king-queen. There's no straddle, and the same guy raises to 16. I'm in the small blind and call. The big blind folds, and we're heads up. The flop comes 8-3-3, and I check. He bets 30. His pre-flop range is literally 80%, and his c-bet frequency is close to the same, which means I'm likely to still have the best hand. I call. Turn is a jack, and I check. This time, he bets 60. I think I can fold here, but I just don't believe him, so I make the call. River is the 6 of spades, and I check again. He checks back and shows jack 9. On the flop, I had the right idea, but he caught up on the turn. Alright, this is a good one. Same guy opens to 15 from early position, and 2 players call. I'm on the button with ace-9 off and decide to bump it up to 90. The original raiser calls, and everyone else folds. The flop comes king 10-4 with 2 diamonds, and he checks. I've got the backdoor nut flush draw and a backdoor straight draw. And while he has been calling a lot of flop bets, I don't want to give up the betting lead by checking. I bet 75, and he makes a comment about getting a discount and calls. Turn is an offsuit 3, and he checks again. I've got 2 options. I can either give up and hope ace high is good and he checks back, or I can stay committed to my story. I turn up the pressure and fire 250. I really hate to see his reaction, because that's the look that says, well, what can I do? I got top pair, I can't fold. But after a while, he folds, and I get to advertise, which is the perfect setup for this hand. I've built my stack up to about 1200, and the same player comes in for 16. His buddy to his left calls, and I've got kings in the cutoff. I raise to 75. It gets back to seat 3, and somehow he folds. And so does seat 4. I'm pretty sure this is the first hand that hasn't seen a flop tonight. I wasn't expecting that, but I guess a win's a win. The straddle's on, and I'm in early position, so I get to open the action this time. I've got ace-king and make it 25. Seat 3 calls from the small blind, and we go heads up to the flop. It comes queen 3-3. He checks. I think ace-king high is good enough to bet for value against this player on this board, so I bet 20. He calls. Turn is the 6 of spades. He checks again, and I think my hand is still good enough to bet for value. I bet again for 35. He calls. River is an 8 of clubs, and he checks for a third time. I think getting 3 streets of value with ace high is a bit ambitious, so I check back. He turns over 9-10 of spades, and my ace high is good. At Chasers, they do 4 bomb pots an hour, and we're due for one right now. The boards come ace 6-3 and 10-9-3. I'm in mid position and look down at kings. I'm probably good on the bottom board, and I've got second pair with a backdoor nut flush draw on top, but I don't want to start piling money in yet, especially with this crowd. I check. Seat 1 bets 50, and seat 3 calls. My hand's too strong to fold, so I call. Turns are a 3 and 9. The 3 gives us a flush draw, and the board pairing 9 isn't the worst card either. I check, and seat 1 moves all in for 169. Seat 3 calls. With the nut flush draw and an overpair, I'm not going anywhere. I call. I'm hoping for a diamond and a blank, but we only get half of what we ordered. We smash one of the last 2 kings and a blank. Now I've got almost an unbeatable boat and an overpair. I shove, and seat 3 unfortunately folds, but seat 1 shows ace jack, and we scoop a killer pot. Let's look at some questionable decisions in this next one. There's no straddle, and seat 4 limps under the gun. I'm in the cutoff with 5-7 suited and raised to 20. The small blind and limper call. 3 ways to the flop of queen 8-7 with 2 spades. They both check. I've got bottom pair, and against one opponent, I'm probably ahead, and with the amount of hands that seat 4 plays, any pair is likely to be ahead of him. I bet 35. They both make the call. Turn is a board pairing queen, and they both check again. Now, I can either check and decide to bluff catch the river, or I can bet because if I was ahead on the flop, I likely still am. There's a number of draws out there, and I could potentially get a fold from an 8 here with a good sized bet. Because seat 1 is on the tighter side, I decide to wimp out and check back. River is the 9 of hearts, and after the small blind checks, seat 4 bets 100. This is one of the worst cards for me to bluff catch, because it completes a number of draws. Jack 10, 9 10, 6 9, 5 6. The only thing that would be worse is if it was a spade. I've seen him bet the river so often tonight though, usually as a bluff. I'm not sure if he chooses this size with just 2 pair, so I decide to look him up. Then, seat 1 moves all in for 174, and now I'm holding a funeral for that $100 plaque that's getting relocated due to stupid decisions. Seat 4 calls, so I guess my read on him was wrong too. I fold, seat 1 shows Jack 10 for a rivered straight, and seat 4 mucks. I definitely could have played this one better. I have some students that I coach, and this is one that I would have a tough time explaining, but I'll do my best. Seat 4 raises under the gun, and I'm in the cutoff with 8-9 offsuit. As a coach, I would just say fold, stay out of trouble, and wait for better spots. But I decide to call. This guy's bleeding chips, and even if I end up losing a pot to him or the big blind, they're so active, they'll give me a chance to win it back. Plus, I've got position. All right. Enough justifying bad calls. The small blind and big blind come along for the ride. And what a ride it's going to be. The flop comes 5, 6, 7 rainbow. These are the spots you dream about. Except for some reason, when it happens in my dreams, I go all in and look back at my hand and see pocket 3s. Anyway, both blinds check and seat 4 bets 25. Insert Vegas and the Mirage line. I don't want to scare anyone off, and I want to give them the chance to raise themselves, so I call. The small blind calls, and so does the big blind. Turn is the 6 of hearts, pairing the board and bringing a backdoor flush draw. Now the small blind leads out for 40. The straddle calls, and seat 4 folds. Now it's time to raise. I bump it up to 150. The small blind folds, and the big blind goes all in for 160. I call, and the dealer puts out an offsuit 3 on the river. I table my hand, and he shows 5-8 off. I'm now up to 1700, and I'm nowhere close to done yet. 20 minutes later, we try to keep the train rolling. My 2 favorite players are in the straddle and big blind, and I've got a suited jack. I raise to 25. The small blind, big blind, and straddle all call. 4 ways to the flop, it comes 9-3 deuce with 2 clubs. It checks to me, and I bet 60 for value. Seat 2, who's on the younger side, and had some nice things to say about Corey's vlogs, raises to 175. The other 2 fold. There's not much he can have on this board other than deuces, 3s, or a flush draw, and because there's a lot more combos of flush draws, it's probably more likely. There is a chance he doesn't raise a flush draw and just calls, so I guess that reduces the probability a little bit, but we don't really have to worry about better top pairs, because he's likely not playing queen 9, king 9, or ace 9 this way. Maybe ace 9 suited. The problem with this is most of his flush draws have at least one overcard as well, so his equity is pretty good. In game, I didn't actually realize my equity was this bad, which is why I shoved. He snap calls, and now it's not looking good, especially when the king of clubs hits the turn. Now there's virtually nothing we beat, just maybe an overplayed weak top pair. River comes the jack of spades, and it's probably too little too late. I announce 2 pair, and he turns over a set of deuces. Turns out it was just me overplaying a weak top pair. The straddle's on, and I'm in mid position with queen jack off. I raise to 25. The cutoff, big blind, and straddle all call. 4 ways to the flop, we see jack 3-3. Both players ahead of me check, and I bet 45. The cutoff folds, and the other 2 call. Turn is another 3. Now the big blind donk shoves all in for about 100. The straddle doesn't waste too much time and calls. Now, the straddle plays a lot of hands. Not as many as seat 4, but he still likes to get in there. But there's not that many things he can have on this board. I'm not really sure what everyone else has here, but I can't fold. I call. The river is a king. It's not too likely either of them has a king, and when the straddle checks, I think we're either chopping or winning this pot with our jack. I check back and tell him I have a jack. The straddle also has a jack, but he's got a king with it, and we lose this one. We were really just behind the whole way and caught a weird run out. I'm in the big blind and our favorite player raises to 15. It folds to me and I've got ace 10 off. I call. Flop comes 2-4-6. I check. He bets 15. As the big blind, this flop is typically going to favor my range more than the razor, but this is one of those rare times that his range is actually stronger on this flop than mine because of how many hands he plays. With that said, my ace high is still figured to be ahead, so I call. Turn and river go check check, and he gets there with 5-7 off on the river. I just included this hand to show you how I came to the assessment of his range. I take down a few pots with no showdown. I 3-bet pre-flop with queen 9 suited and win with a bet on the flop. Then catch a few limps on my straddle and take it down pre with ace 8 off. I raise the button with 6-7 and take it down on the flop, which brings us to quite possibly the hand of the night. We're 5-handed and I'm in the straddle, and seat 1 raises to 15. Everyone calls and I've got pocket 4s. No reason to get too out of line, and I give the old
I think I'm priced in now, huh?
and call. The flop comes 6-6-3. The two players before me check. I don't want it to check around, then have an overcard come, because it's difficult to know if I'm good, so I lead out for 35. The original raiser makes it 75, and everyone else folds. I think the way he plays, this could very likely be an overpair, but I'm not convinced. It's possible I have the best hand, and we're deep enough that he may not feel that comfortable either. I call. Turn is the 8 of diamonds. I check. He bets 100. I think it's likely 9s are better, but this could still be a bluff. If he does have an overpair, I think I can make him believe I have a 6. It's just too easy for me to have one in this spot, so I raise it up to 250. He thinks about it for a while. It makes me sweat it out. The whole time I'm thinking, if he calls, am I emptying the clip on the river? It doesn't come to that, and thankfully, he folds. I show him a 4, and after I muck the other one, I realize that didn't really tell him anything, because I could have had 4-6. Oh well. We're still 5-handed, and we're at the point of the night where the other tables are also getting short, so we need to consolidate. I'm really hoping our table doesn't break, because if it does, I just might call it a night. We're at 1-3, and under the gun makes it 15. Everyone calls, and I've got 6s in the big blind. I complete the action with a call, and we go 5 ways to the flop. It's a beauty. Jack 10-6. Small blind checks, and with how active everyone at the other end of the table has been, I feel like a check raise is in order. I check, and it checks around. Turn is a 7, and the small blind checks again. No checks this time. I bet 35. Only the button calls. River is an ace, and against this player, it doesn't worry me one bit. And with how the action played out, he's probably got a hand like King 7 or something, so I bet 50, hoping for a call. Well, we get more than a call, and he clicks it back to 100. He could definitely be doing this with a hand that made 2 pair, or even a hand like ace 8 that he thinks is good, so it's a pretty easy call. I call, and he turns up 8-9 for a turn straight. I'm happy he decided to slow play. It saved me about $100. The player to my right makes it 12, and I 3-bet with ace queen suited and take it down. Seat 4 takes a bathroom break, and this table's hanging on by a thread. We're 4-handed with the straddle on, and I'm on the button and peel 10-8 offsuit. I make it 25. The big blind and straddle both call. The flop comes king 9-3, but I'm more excited to see seat 4 sit back down. Both players check to me, and I try to steal it with a bet of 50. The big blind doesn't take long and goes all in for his last 130. The straddle folds, and every now and then you get your hand caught in the cookie jar. No big deal. A couple hands later, the button makes it 16, and both blinds call. I'm in the straddle with 5-7 off. It's definitely not a pretty hand, but it's connected, and I'm getting over 5-1, and I've got some reads on my opponents. I call. The flop's okay, 9-8 deuce with 2 diamonds. Both players ahead of me check. I've got a gut shot to a non-nut straight, and with the flush draw out there, it's really not going to be worth much. I check, ready to give up this hand. The button checks behind, and we go to a turn. It's the gin card, the offsuit 6. The small blind leads out for 25. It gets even better, and the big blind raises to 75. If I raise, it's definitely going to set off alarm bells, but I can't just call and let the others in. There's too many cards that could come on the river that complete draws and kill the action. I raise to 250. It folds back to the big blind. He thinks for a full minute and counts out calling chips. I think it's too obvious I have a huge hand, but it seems he's ruled out folding. Then he moves all in for 1,500. I was not expecting that. He's got me covered, and now I need to either make a hero fold or call it off with the low end of the straight. I'm either way ahead or drawing dead. He can certainly have 10-7, but I guess he can also have a set that just doesn't want to see the river. Call.
Calls.
The river's a blank, and I table my straight. He says, "Nice hand," and throws his 2-pair across the table. It doesn't end there either. We get some fresh blood and we're back up to 8-handed. There's a couple limps and seat 3 makes it 15 from the cutoff. The button calls and both blinds fold. I'm in the straddle with 7-8 off, and for 9 more I make the call. Both limpers call and we go 5 ways to the flop. It comes ace-9-5 with 2 spades. Very similar to the last hand where I needed that offsuit 6. What are the chances it happens twice? I check. Seat 1 bets 30 and 2 players call. I decide to peel one off because why not? Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, and look at this turn. It's the offsuit 6. My hand is very disguised, and with aggressive players behind, I'm going to go for a check raise. I check, and they all just start checking around. That wasn't supposed to happen. River's the queen of hearts, and it changes nothing. I still have the nuts, and I can either go for a value bet or a sneaky check raise. I decide to be greedy and check. Seat 1 bets 75. Both players to his left fold, and now I just need to figure out how much I think he'll call. This is the same player from before when I had the 4s, so I want to go big. I decide on 450. He's not happy about it, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like he has much, and folds. In this next hand, seat 1 opens the action from mid position to 16. The hijack, cutoff, button, and big blind all call. I look down at pocket deuces, and it's $10 to close the action. I ain't missing this one. I call. The flop comes 5-4 deuce with 2 clubs. The big blind checks, and I check it to the original raiser. He bets 50. Everyone folds, and it's back to me. With him leading into 5 players, I expect him to have something. And with how many times I've check raised him tonight, I figure at some point he's got to get fed up with it and take a stand. I raise to 175. Somehow, he finds the fold again. At this point, I wish I showed him that other 4 earlier. We're 6-handed to a bomb pot, and the boards come king 9-7 and ace queen 8. It checks to seat 6, and he bets 50. I've got 2 double gut shots and the second nut flush draw. Definitely too strong to fold yet. I call. Everyone else folds and we're heads up. Turns are an ace up top and a jack down low. He continues betting for 100. These turns don't really help me. Even though I made a pair, maybe that gives me a couple more outs, but I've still got plenty of cards to hit on either of these boards. I call. Rivers are 2 blanks, and he shoves all in for his last couple hundred. There's a slim chance that my jack could be good on the bottom board, but any ace or queen scoops me, and it's not worth finding out. I fold, and he's nice enough to show his ace king.
In for 600, out for 2,400. Well, that was a good night. I made back everything that I lost last session and then some. I'm really happy to have a good day like this, and I'm excited for the weekend. I hope you're good wherever you are. Have a good night.